Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Create and Consume, a podcast about what we make, watch, and buy in the era of digital content. I'm your host, Austen Tosone. In life, honestly, your deepest, most true relationship is the one you have with yourself. And spending time alone is one of the best ways to truly understand how you feel and what you think without being clouded or influenced by other people's opinions, judgments, or thoughts. Some people do love alone time, some people hate it, but this weekend I was alone for, well, I guess it was a whole weekend, maybe about 48 hours in total, if we were to clock it. So today I thought I would share how I like to spend a solo weekend and give you some ideas if you ever find yourself in a position where you have some uninterrupted alone time. If you're listening to this episode, please do me a huge favor. Go ahead and pause this episode right now and go rate and review the show on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you are listening to this podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. That could help really get the podcast out to more people, and it means so much to me when you guys do that. So if you've been listening and enjoying, please let me know, and thank you so much to those who have done it already. Before we get into today's topic, let's do a little create and consume. And as a reminder, you all can let me know what you're creating and consuming in the comments on YouTube if that's where you're watching. You can also leave comments now on Spotify. I haven't really tested this feature much yet, like as a user or as a podcaster. So you can, though, comment on this episode over on Spotify or send me a little DM or leave a comment on the Instagram or TikTok for the podcast, which is just at Create and Consume Pod, to let me know what you all are creating and consuming as well, because I'm nosy, okay? I would like to know. So, one thing that I was creating this past week was a reel about how much I am burned out by short form content, which I'm sure sounds a little counterintuitive, but I did want to put together a video with just kind of a little blurb that I had written, which ended up being the voiceover for the video, talking about my relationship with short form content and how genuinely burned out from it all I am. It's just crazy. I mean, my word for 2024 has been align, and I really have been following that more this year than I ever have in the past, to do less of what I think I should be doing and more of what I actually want to do, which is hard to do in a creative business, especially when you're self employed. But it's led me in the direction of creating more long form content over on YouTube. It's led me in the direction of launching this podcast and really reinvesting time and effort into my blog, which I have absolutely been loving. So I decided to publish this reel this past week, and I did get some really positive comments from people. I will link it in the show notes if you haven't seen it yet. I won't talk too much about the topic of being burnt out from short form content in today's episode, because if you guys listened to episode 6, which was my social media state of the union, I shared a lot of my thoughts over in that episode. So I will link that as well in case you haven't gotten a chance to listen. But it made me feel good to see that other people were sort of feeling the same way. And just the thought that, we're not all as dazzled and as excited to create short form content as maybe we once used to be, especially when it got to the point on like TikTok and Reels about you want to be posting multiple times a day, you need to be really churning out content, you want to make algorithms happy. And that's just like long term not going to be really sustainable for any of us. So I know I just said I wouldn't get into it, so I will pause there. And again, if you want more thoughts on that, check out episode 6. And then, as far as what I am consuming, this past Friday, I went to go see It Ends With Us in theaters. And I haven't been to a movie in a full year. The last movie I went to was actually on a solo weekend that I had last year, which was sort of unusual for me, but it was the Barbie movie, and I just felt like I couldn't not go see it. So that was the last time that I went to the movies. I am so much more a television person than a movie person. So savor this moment if you're a movie lover, because I feel like it's very rare that I'm consuming movies. So this is definitely one I wanted to mention. I actually had texted my friend Taylor. They were supposed to screen a movie in the park here in Hoboken, which If you guys listen to my summer bucket list episode, I forget what number that was already. I don't know how people with hundreds and hundreds of podcasts keep track of these things, but maybe one day I'll find out. They were supposed to screen a movie in the park, but it was actually raining most of last week, so that got rained out. And Taylor texted me and said, why don't we go see It Ends With Us? Because it actually came out this past Friday, which was August 9th. So we got tickets for that, and we went to the Newport Cinema in Jersey City. So we just took the light rail from Hoboken into Jersey City. We actually had dinner at the Cheesecake Factory, which was so funny. I have not been to the Cheesecake Factory in ages, and everything we got was pretty good. We even got a glass of the Cheesecake Factory Cabernet Reserve or something like that. I didn't even know they had their own wines. Anyway, none of that is what I'm trying to talk about. We went to go see It Ends With Us, which is a movie based on a book by Colleen Hoover. You guys know I've been back in my reading era in 2024. I feel like I am just reading more for fun and reading more fiction. And I actually haven't read anything by Colleen Hoover yet. I'm sure I will at some point, but this is one of her most well-known books, and they turned it into a movie starring Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. There is some cast drama going on right now. I really don't know enough about it to comment on it, so I just want to keep the focus on the movie here. Basically, the story centers on a girl, Lily, who moves to Boston in the hopes of setting up her own flower shop. But fun fact, this movie actually was filmed in Hoboken, not far from where I live. Since it was filmed in Hoboken, there were lots of street corners and things that I recognized, which was really fun. And basically, this woman, wants to have her own flower shop. Ironically, her name is Lily Bloom. And one night she meets this guy on the rooftop of his apartment building, and they kind of have this intense bond and moment. And he later meets her again in the flower shop, so they kind of start a romance. I will say I saw some kind of mixed marketing of this film online. Some people were kind of making it seem more like a rom-com, and I just want to add a trigger warning that there are scenes depicting domestic violence in the film. So if that is a sensitive topic for you, maybe this is one to skip. However, I really thought the film was well done. I thought there was a good amount of a little bit of levity when needed, especially from Jenny Slate. She was just so good in this film. I feel like I'm so used to seeing her in fully comedic roles, and I loved seeing her in a bit more of a serious role in this movie. And even though the story was incredibly heartbreaking, I think it was told very well, and I think it was shot beautifully. There was also a good amount of what's going on right now versus kind of flashbacks to fill in the gaps of the story, which I always think is kind of a cool way to tell a story, is not necessarily in chronological order. And Taylor and I, just got a large popcorn. We got all of our childhood candy favorites. We just had such a nice, wholesome night. So if you haven't gone to see a movie with your best friend lately, definitely go do that and maybe consider watching It Ends With Us. Now that we've checked that off, let's get into the main topic of today's episode, which is how to spend a solo weekend alone, which maybe that part is a little redundant. So, how to have a great solo weekend. And I was technically with Taylor on Friday night, but I will also walk through what I would usually do on a Friday if I didn't happen to have plans with someone. And yeah, I was alone this weekend. Andrew was actually down the shore visiting some friends this weekend. They ran a 5K on Saturday morning, which good for them. And I just want to say I am so lucky and grateful to have someone like Andrew as my partner who really there's always just such a good balance. I mean, obviously we love each other. We spend a good chunk of our weeks together. We live together in a 1-bedroom apartment, and we have for the last 5 years. So it's pretty obvious that we love each other or we wouldn't be able to survive that. But we also both know when the other just needs a minute or needs some time, either a weekend with friends or a weekend alone. And so when he told me that he was going to visit his friends, I was like, excellent. I'm not going to make any plans except to go see the movie, which kind of just popped up. But I really love and appreciate a good solo weekend. And it is just something that I don't know, like in some ways, I actually haven't had too many of in my life thinking back because obviously, growing up, I was with my parents at home. And then even in college and when I was living in Brooklyn, I always had roommates. So it would be very rare to like have a full weekend where I was totally like alone in the apartment and wouldn't cross paths with, someone who I knew. And obviously, since moving in with Andrew and getting married, those weekends, are pretty sporadic as well. But I have really come to cherish and just enjoy the concept of a solo weekend because it really just gives me that time to spend with myself. And it's a weird thing to intentionally spend time with yourself versus just, oh, I happen to be alone. But I really like the intentionality behind a solo weekend and making it kind of like something that I can look forward to, even if I'm not, having the craziest plans in the world, like traveling somewhere crazy or going to a big party or something like that. It's these little things that, when they're all kind of strung together, just bring me so much joy and so much happiness that, like, it's very main character energy. And I'm totally down to continue to romanticize my own life. And it's just something that makes me happy. With that being said, I thought I would kind of structure this episode kind of taking you like day by day and almost like throughout the kind of three different parts of each day. So if I'm having a solo weekend, like this past weekend, for example, that usually meant that after Andrew like logged off from work Friday afternoon, that he was sort of off. So from Friday evening on is when the solo time really began. In my ideal world, I like to have a 15 to 20-minute block of movement on a Friday afternoon, whether that is doing like a Peloton core class, which I really have been slacking on lately. I really should do one this week just to like get back in the swing of it. I used to be so good about this, or at least last year I was really good about adding in this like 15 or 20-minute core workout, and I just have totally dropped off from it in the last few months. So if I'm not doing that, at least maybe I'm going for a little walk or something, just something to add some movement into my day. I will say for most Friday mornings this summer, it's been so pleasant out that I have gone for like a little walk where I basically we'll just try to get up pretty early, go and maybe make a coffee and bring it with me, listen to a podcast, do a little walk around, even if it's not a super long one, just to get out and get moving. I'm much less likely to do that during the winter months. It'll be more likely that you'll see me curled up with a book or something on winter mornings. But if I haven't done that Friday morning, Friday afternoon, I just like need to so that I can get out and get some movement in, whatever form that looks like. When I was in college, Thursday nights and Saturday nights were like the going out nights, but Friday nights were kind of just meant to be like a little buffer in between, a little chance to kind of recharge the social battery, so to speak. And I have honestly carried that into my adult life as well. So usually, if Andrew's here, we are doing Pizza Friday and maybe we are just picking up some pizza and hanging out at the apartment. But obviously, like if a plan comes up, we can always change the plan. And we've also been away so many weekends this summer that hasn't really been like a consistent thing we've been doing. But I just feel like Friday to me is not the night to go out for some reason. It's like the night to stay in and just curl up and kind of decompress from the end of the week. So that's how I view Friday nights. So when I am by myself, my ideal Friday night situation is that I will log off of work at a reasonable time, which I did not do this Friday. And Taylor had to sit and watch me negotiate a contract for 20 minutes because I'm working with the team on the West Coast. So it came in at like 6 p.m. Eastern time here, but I really wanted to try to get them a response as quickly as I could. But I like to ideally close my laptop at a reasonable time, get some good takeout, and watch a TV show. Now, again, if Andrew were here, Pizza Friday is usually a standard in our household. However, if Andrew is not here, this is also a chance for me to get some food that he would not normally want to order. And this is not to say Andrew doesn't like these foods, it's just they're not the things that they wouldn't be like his first or second choice to order if we were ordering in food, if you know what I'm saying. So usually that involves something along the lines of either like sushi, which I absolutely love having sushi. I feel like we just never order it here, or ramen, which is also one of my favorite foods. And there's an incredible spot here in Hoboken that does these ramen bowls that I love. Shout out Muteki Ramen on Washington Street. It's just so delicious. And every time I order it, the broth is like, you'd think in the delivery window that by the time it got here, I might need to heat it up or something. No, every single time I open the broth from Matuki, it is searing hot still. I don't know how they do it. This is regardless of season, could be summer, could be winter, doesn't matter. It's always hot and it's always delicious. I might take the opportunity to order food that he wouldn't normally order, like I just said, or I might also take the opportunity to get something kind of personalized or like a smaller size that if we were to both get it, it's not that it wouldn't make sense, but it would kind of just be like more expensive and something that might be better enjoyed if we were just like eating out somewhere. So for that, my go-to is Dozino Pizza here in Hoboken. It is basically like a personalized pizza, but it's done Neapolitan style. So I feel like the classic New Jersey / New York slice of pizza, you know the vibes. It's a much thinner crust. It's a really fresh sauce and cheese, and it looks literally like the pizza emoji. This one is much more like fluffy crust, still really fresh ingredients, but like instead of shredded cheese, you can like see the globs of mozzarella on it. Truly so enjoyable. One of my favorite things, no doubt. Also, depending on what I order, I might make my walk for that afternoon or that evening bit, like the walk to go pick up the food. And as a general rule, I like to try to go walk to pick up takeout in Hoboken because it's 1 square mile and there really shouldn't be an excuse unless it's like all the way like in the other direction of where I live, or obviously if it's snowing. But I do like to try to go walk to pick up my food because then obviously I don't have to worry about a delivery fee and all of that stuff. And then I get my food faster too. So I'll usually go on my little walk, I'll pick up whatever I ordered, bring it home, and then I will likely leave it on the counter and take a shower. This is not an everything shower, and in fact, for some reason, I usually don't wash my hair on Fridays. I don't know, again, why that's in my routine, but for some reason, Friday is the main day that I skip if I'm going to skip a hair wash. But I might just shower off, get in some really comfy clothes, take my contacts out, and then I am like parked on the couch. Like, even if you text me with the most fun plan in the world, nothing could tear me away from my takeout food, my comfy clothes, sitting on my couch, watching my show. That is just the ultimate happy place for me at the beginning of a solo weekend. Lately, when I have full TV access, as you can see behind me if you're watching on YouTube, that's the TV. We only have one of them in a 1 bedroom apartment. And I know that I could always watch things on my laptop. Of course, that's an option, but there's just something about it being on the TV, you know? So when I have full TV privileges, again, similarly to maybe I am getting some takeout that Andrew wouldn't necessarily choose, I'm also probably watching a TV show that Andrew wouldn't necessarily choose. And there's kind of two different verticals of what I might be watching. Either number one, I am watching like one of my comfort shows, whether that be like Gossip Girl, Gilmore Girls, Psych, Felicity, any of the usuals in that kind of lineup that I just love watching, or I will try to plow through a new, usually like a new season of something or a new offshoot of a series that I already like. For example, I know Emily in Paris is coming out next week, I believe. So that might be the what I'm consuming next week, just as a heads up. And maybe it'll be something like, you know, Love Island has a new season or Love is Blind has a new season where I'll try to catch up on some of those. And the reason for this is because when I get like really zoned into something, I just want to keep watching that show. Like Netflix has it right where they kind of don't ask as much anymore if you're still watching. It's only after you've watched like 3 or 4 episodes where they kind of check in. And that's me. Like I will keep the show on unless there's something else pressing that needs my attention. So that is kind of just like my moment to have a fixation like that. The show that I've been watching this past weekend is Love Island USA season 6. Please don't send me any spoilers. I'm sure I will run into them on my own, given that I'm watching after this season has aired, but I would like to stay as much in the dark as possible because right now things are getting kind of heated and I'm not really sure which direction it's going to go in. I think I managed to bank like, and please don't judge me for this, I think I might be on episode 15 or something after this weekend. And I will say I skipped 2 episodes that were like the After Sun episodes where they discussed like what happened in the last week. And depending on, who's on screen and stuff, as I start to get to know people more, I kind of fast forward through little parts here and there. Like if they're doing a recoupling and I know who the first 4 couples are and there's no drama there, I might just fast forward through them. But this is just so I can make my way through the show as quickly as possible and then join the discourse, because that's my favorite thing about reality TV is discussing it with other people. So that is Friday night, locked and loaded. Usually during the weeknights, I am in bed at 10 no matter what, but I might allow myself to stay up till 11, especially if I'm getting sucked into a show. And then it'll be Saturday morning. And I always like starting Saturdays with a long Peloton ride. And when I say long, I usually mean 50 minutes to an hour or possibly longer. And new life hack for any Peloton users is now you can watch Netflix on Peloton. And I'm currently rewatching Sex and the City. I wish I could watch Love Island on the Peloton though. Does anyone know if there are plans to integrate like Hulu or Peacock or any of those other things soon? Because that would be honestly ideal for me. But I'm currently rewatching Sex in the City. So if I want to do 50 minutes on the Peloton, I will basically like watch 2 episodes of Sex in the City. And I just really like having this long bike ride first thing Saturday morning, just because there's like nothing else going on. There's nothing else that needs my attention. I really don't have anywhere to be. And it's just kind of a great chance to get in that longer workout in a week versus this morning, for example, I rode for like 25 minutes and then I walked to Trader Joe's. So that was kind of my movement for the day, which is nice, but I wish that I had longer to spend working out. But, I just get like excited to start working, which is so nerdy of me, but that's also one of the benefits of being self-employed is I really look forward to sitting down and figuring out what's on the agenda for the day and getting into my work. But, a Saturday is not a weekday, so I do like to make sure that I'm really taking the time that I need for myself to get my more solid workout in. And then at this point, if I didn't wash my hair like on Friday night, I am doing kind of an everything shower Saturday morning just to like set the tone for the weekend. Now, I know I just got finished saying that Saturday is obviously not a work day. However, when you're self-employed, the lines between work and life, they do get blurry sometimes. So if I am going to work on a Saturday at all, I like it to happen as early in the day as possible so that basically by the time like noon rolls around, I am just completely off. And I try not to do anything that's too labor intensive on a Saturday morning, for example. This past weekend, I was just pulling some clips from Opus AI for the podcast social media to share this upcoming week. So that is kind of something that, again, I upload the video, I click to see the clips, and I scroll through and choose the 2 I like the most. I download them, and then I get them uploaded and scheduled kind of across the different platforms that they need to go up on. So that is something that could be going on, like, for example, while Love Island is happening in the background. As far as my ideal Saturday breakfast for a solo weekend, well, the world is really my oyster. But there's usually only one thing that I want on a weekend morning for breakfast, and that's a breakfast sandwich. And this might just be the New Jersey/New York in me, but it's just one of those things that makes me smile. So this past weekend, though, I did not go out to O Bagel and acquire breakfast sandwiches, even though I kind of wanted to, but I decided to instead make my at home breakfast sandwich, which is just the Trader Joe's frozen chicken sausage with an egg on an English muffin with a little bit of hot sauce. So that's what I had this weekend, both Saturday and Sunday for breakfast. And I would call that honestly financially responsible. I'm just saving money. So that's maybe not on dinners, but when it comes to the breakfast of it all, I saved money this weekend as far as I'm concerned. And then for the rest of Saturday morning/Saturday daytime, this is really just a chance to kind of do any number of things that I want to do. I will say on the working front, if I am going to be working, I either like to find some work that I can do where I do have something like Love Island on in the background. There's just so few parts of my work that don't require my full brain energy, but some things like, pulling clips and scheduling content on Instagram or creating pins for Pinterest or linking affiliate products, like those things I can do with something else on, but obviously I'm recording the podcast right now. I can't just be like watching Love Island while I'm recording the podcast. Although I know several podcasters who do commentary, and honestly, that sounds like a dream. If I had any idea the technical side of that, maybe I would have to launch a whole other podcast just of me reacting to television, but I don't really know how that would all work. And same thing with like when I'm filming a YouTube video, when I'm writing, when I'm scripting stuff, it's just really hard for me to divide focus. And I want to make sure that I'm being focused to produce the best possible content. But anyway, so if I am going to be getting some work done, I would either like to do it like I just said, I'm at home, I just made a breakfast sandwich, Love Island's on in the background, or I do still love going to a coffee shop and getting some work done. However, I am extremely privileged to be able to work from coffee shops on weekdays where things are substantially like less crowded and chaotic. So I can't really work from like the Hive, for example, on a Saturday morning because it's going to be slammed because they do their homemade cinnamon rolls on the weekends. And it's just going to be like kind of hectic and chaotic for me to try to work from somewhere like there. But there are a couple of coffee shops that I would maybe head to if I really did need to get some work done and I just wanted to go for an hour or two in the morning. That always feels like a nice way to approach the work because at least I'm in a kind of cozy environment. I've got a great drink with me and I don't have to stay there all day. That's the other thing. Like, you will not catch me working all day on a Saturday unless I have a really big deadline or something. Also, as discussed earlier, I've been getting back into reading. So, especially if it's nice out, if it's like a summer Saturday, I would love to find somewhere to just lay out and read for a while. So there's a couple of parks in Hoboken. Our building does have a rooftop. There's always the Hoboken waterfront. If you have a friend with a pool, you know. Bringing a book out and reading in the sun and just having the sun hit your face and feeling the breeze and not looking at a screen is something that I absolutely love doing. I did that this past Saturday. Like, once I pulled the podcast clips, I just went outside and read for honestly, I think like 2 hours. And I actually was able to finish our book for book club in a week because when I came back from my cousin's wedding, the book was ready to pick up at the Hoboken Library. And that was last Monday. And I'm recording this podcast episode this Monday. So I was able to read it within a week, which is kind of crazy because it was like 400 pages, but it was also an Ellen Hildebrandt novel. So I feel like it moved pretty quickly. And yeah, that is honestly such a great thing to do on a solo weekend. If there's a book that you've been wanting to read, like, there's no distractions, there's no time like the present to dig in and just get reading. So I might request another book from the library, or I might read something that is on the shelf back there that I've been meaning to kind of crack into for a little while now. There are a few things up there that I think two that my mom has given me and one that my sister-in-law gave me that I want to read. So we'll see what order everything ends up falling in. I also think, though, that there is nothing wrong with having like a rot on the couch Saturday, especially if it's like pouring rain or if it's not nice out. Then I might just continue my Love Island marathon because when I have this launch pad of being able to watch like a handful of episodes in a row, that's what really pulls me into the season and gets me excited to keep watching because usually Love Island episode or seasons are like 36 episodes, which is a lot. Especially, I was talking to Andrew about this last night because there was no new House of the Dragon. And I was like, isn't it so crazy how in modern day television, like some of the episodes are longer, but there are so fewer episodes per season compared to what it used to be. I am also still rewatching Felicity. The more I'm listening to everything that I am consuming right now, I'm like, no wonder I started this podcast because where did all of these thoughts go before I had the podcast to share them with? but that is taking me forever to get through because I'm on season 4, but I'm only on episode like 7 out of 23 or something crazy like that. It's just so crazy how the seasons have changed. But that's why with something like Love Island, when I have a chance to just like fully focus on it and plow through a bunch of things, I will. That's also how I was able to watch the first and second seasons of Love is Blind back in December and January, because I did it on a flight to Fiji and then on a flight back from New Zealand. It's like I had no other obligations, so might as well just watch this show and get it all under my system. You know what I mean? Okay, so anyway, now it's Saturday night again. Just me here. It's not like it's Saturday night, we're going to meet people, or it's Saturday night, we're going to do things, unless it is, and it's just not a solo weekend in that case. But once again, Saturday night, I had no plans with anyone other than myself. So I ended up getting takeout this night since I had gone out with Taylor. Like in my reality of this past weekend, I went out with Taylor Friday night. But if it were a solo weekend, I might go pick up one of my favorite takeout options, as discussed again, just because on my ideal solo weekend, I'm really not cooking. Aside from the breakfast sandwich, which I can handle, I don't really want to be like making a whole meal because I am the main chef in this household, like Sunday through Thursday. So I feel like that's my balance and that's my trade-off. And if anyone has a problem with that, well, no one's had a problem with it. So that's just how we do things. This past Saturday, I kind of moved my pizza situation. So Saturday night, I went and picked up Dozino, and that was my little takeout moment, which I absolutely loved. It was so delicious. I got the La Roma pizza, which had sopressata on it. We love to see that. Otherwise, maybe I would have picked up some sushi or ramen or just something random that I was in the mood for. And I sat myself down on the couch and watched some more Love Island. However, one thing that I tried for the first time a few weeks ago that I would actually love to do more of, I would just have to think of like the right spots to do this at, is reading at a bar by myself. And I did this in a vlog from earlier this year. I will link it down below. I think the vlog actually was a solo weekend in my life. So if you want to see a full visual of what I'm talking about, definitely go watch that one. I will link it in the show notes or the description down below. But it was my first time ever actually doing that. I've seen other people do it before, and it was my first time doing it in this vlog, and I had such a pleasant experience. I just sat at the bar. I got like one glass of super crisp and cold white wine that was delicious, and I was just there for like an hour. I tried to go, I think I went at like 5 or 5:30, before things kind of picked up and got crazier, especially on a Saturday night, either in Hoboken or New York City. It's always going to be busy no matter what you do. And I was just there for like an hour just to get out of the house and like be out in the world, but know that I didn't have to talk to anyone I didn't want to talk to, and that I was really just there for myself. Yeah, I might need to scope out some places around here and maybe make a list of recommendations. I feel like the criteria is very specific in terms of you want it not to be too loud. You want to make sure that, it's not like a rowdy place necessarily, but also that it's not like you're the only one in there. And you also need to make sure that you can actually read your book. So I think that's all kind of part of it. But the place I went in that vlog in the city was called Felice on Hudson. Felice is a chain restaurant in New York City. I still haven't gotten a chance to eat there yet, though, because we were supposed to eat there when Kristen and Ian came to visit a few weeks ago, but they actually were doing some last minute renovations, so they had to cancel our reservation. But I just had such a pleasant experience there. I was seated at the bar, which was right near a window. So, like I said, because it was probably 5:30, there was obviously still light coming in, and I also had a candle like right next to my book, so I was able to read just fine, and it was not too hectic or crazy. And weirdly, it was happy hour there on a Saturday afternoon. I was like, that's kind of unheard of. So 10 out of 10 recommend Felice for reading a book at the bar by yourself. But yeah, I would love to find some more places in Hudson County, like in Hoboken and Jersey City, that I could do that too. Cause that's just kind of like again, I'm going there with like one particular purpose in mind, which is to read for about an hour and have like one drink and then come home. So I love that because, again, it lets me kind of peek my head out into society, but I don't actually have to interact with anyone and I could just come right home when I'm done and get in some comfy clothes. So that is the Saturday rundown. And then Sunday morning, this is the one day a week where like I truly just never have a plan. And I need Sundays for that reason. Those are the days that allow for just a little bit of spontaneity and a little bit of like true relaxation. Because Saturday, like I said, my morning for the most part is still a little bit scheduled out. Like I really want to make sure I hit my Peloton ride. I really would like to, make sure that I am getting a little bit of work done if that's a possibility and just kind of like being a bit more active on Saturdays. Sundays are just for like really doing whatever the heck I want to do. This past weekend, I think I stayed up till maybe 11 again on Saturday, and I woke up at 6:30 Sunday morning, which is when I usually wake up, and I was just craving a really, really long walk around the neighborhood with an iced coffee while listening to a podcast. So that is exactly what I did. Although I will say, I actually got up so early. Like by the time I got out of the apartment, it was maybe like 7:15 that the coffee shop I was planning on going to and then the backup coffee shop that I wanted to go to were both not even open yet. That is actually one of my favorite things about an early Sunday morning walk around Hoboken is like no one's awake. Or like very few people are awake. And it is just one of the most quiet, beautiful times to be in the neighborhood. So after I had to go on Google Maps and investigate which coffee shops actually opened at 7 on Sunday, which were fewer than expected, I realized that Mojo was open. So I actually walked down to the downtown Mojo location on Willow. I got an iced chai latte and I was just listening to my podcasts and bopping around. I walked all the way down to First Street and then over to the waterfront. And then I kind of looped my way back towards more of the like middle uptown area of Hoboken. And it was just so delightful. By the time I got back here, I already had like almost 7,000 steps. I had listened to some podcasts. I got my vitamin D. It was a beautiful sunny morning. Oh my God, there are a few things that make me happier in the world than that. So we already discussed in the morning routines episode why I'm a fan of waking up early. That is definitely one of the best reasons to wake up early. And then in an ideal world, I am really trying like not to leave home base. Like once I am here, I am happy to be home. And aside from going for little walks or maybe running an errand or two, I like to be here. And one thing that I did this weekend that I think we're all familiar with from like TikTok and Instagram is a little bit of a Sunday reset. So, Sunday reset for me can happen in kind of two parts. Obviously, number one is cleaning, which is just if there is anything left out on like the tables or the counter, which it's Monday, so ignore what's behind me because I did not finish Sunday cleaning yesterday. I will try to tidy up and get things organized. I will do that today though, because my friend Devin is going to come over for dinner tonight. I'm going to cook a little something here and we're going to watch The Bachelorette, which has also been really good. You guys probably think that I'm like addicted to television by the end of this episode. I feel like there's just so many good things airing right now or about to air that I have to keep up with. Okay. It's literally like part of my job. So, anyway, I will do more of an overall clean later, but that is usually part of the Sunday reset, just like wiping down the counters, Swiffering the floors, washing the sheets, doing all of those things. I did wash the sheets and the towels yesterday, so I will count that. But I also, on that front, could do like a deep clean or kind of a one section deep clean. So, the one section I decided to deep clean this past weekend was under the bathroom sink. Now, things have been disappearing under the bathroom sink for like weeks now. Or maybe months. It has truly just been like this black hole where I'm scared to open it, can't find anything. Cords of curling irons and hair dryers and stuff are everywhere. And even Andrew was trying to leave for the beach this weekend and he was like, "Where is our sunscreen? Like, do you have a sunscreen I can borrow?" Did a deep clean under the bathroom sink and found two full tubs or tubes, I guess, of the like banana boat sunscreen. So that is what happens when you let things get chaotic down there. So it's looking much more organized now. And I'm so glad that I finally like bit the bullet and decided to do that. But yeah, sometimes those little like sectional deep cleans are just as important as doing an overall clean of the apartment. And I'm really glad that I ended up doing that. And then the other side of the Sunday reset is basically to reset for the work week. So, what I like to do for that is open up my Notion, which contains like basically the back end of my whole business. And I'll go through and check off any things that I did do last week that I hadn't gotten a chance to kind of update as it got to the end of the day on Friday. Just make sure everything looks good. I will set my top 3 priorities for the upcoming week based on my quarterly goals and my goals for that month, just to make sure that I'm staying on track with everything. And I might also go through and respond to some emails or like write out a reply and schedule an email to go out first thing Monday morning so that I'm not bothering people on a Sunday, but like I'm kind of clearing my inbox before the week starts. So that is something that I like to do from a digital standpoint. If you guys are interested in accessing my entire Notion goals and planning hub, I do sell that on my website. I will link it in the show notes if you'd like to see. It basically is the entire back end of my creator business and the entire inside of my brain. And it really helps me stay on track. It contains weekly digital to-do lists. If you write out things for the week and you don't get to them, it's so easy to just copy and paste and drop them into the next week. It also contains the quarterly and yearly goal planning so that you can set goals, break them down easily, and make sure that you're staying on task with everything week after week so you're not getting behind on any goals. I am so grateful that I took the time to like learn about Notion and build this template because it truly is something I couldn't live without. So that is the Sunday reset vibe. Like I said, either cleaning the apartment and tidying up around here, and ideally also getting digitally organized for the week so that by the time I sit down on Monday morning, I am not overwhelmed and I know exactly what I need to focus on for the week ahead. And then I just wanted to shout out 2 other things that I usually love doing on solo weekends, but didn't make the cut for it this weekend just because of time and also what I felt like doing. One thing that I love doing by myself is going to a museum. I mean, I live right next to New York City. The number of museums and things to do is basically limitless. So, being able to go to a museum, check out an exhibition, whether it's one I've been to a million times, like the Met or the MoMA, or whether I am visiting a new museum, I really like to just kind of see what's out there, get creatively inspired, and again, disconnect from my screen for a little while. Those are things that I really, really appreciate that we have so close by to us and that I do like to go visit when I can. And also a solo Target trip. And sometimes this is dependent on whether or not we have the car. So Andrew took the car this weekend. So I could have gone to Target, which is right in Jersey City. I just would have needed to either like Uber or take the light rail, depending on, how much stuff I acquire at Target. But I do love a solo Target run. When you walk in, like the first place I'm going is the Starbucks. I must have my cute little beverage with me to stick in the cart. And I just wander. There's usually no list, which is usually a problem. And I just kind of wander through like the fashion sections, obviously looking at all of the beauty products. There's so many now, especially with like the Ulta integration. I could be in there for like 2 hours. So if it's ever like raining or snowing or something, a museum or a Target run is a great thing to throw in. Obviously, I'm coming off of like a beautiful summery weekend here. So if some of the outdoor activities that I mentioned are not applicable, these are fun things to swap in as well. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode of Create and Consume. You can support the podcast for free by doing any of the following. You can leave Apple and Spotify ratings and reviews. Please rate us 5 stars or leave a little note for us if you choose to do so. That would mean so much to me. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you're watching over on YouTube. You can follow along at Create and Consume Pod on Instagram and TikTok. You could send this episode to a friend who might enjoy it. And as always, don't forget to check out createandconsumepodcast.com for episode recaps and more. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.